You mentioned something very, very interesting, and I'm a proud Israeli. I'm a very proud Israeli. I see it as the greatest country. At least, I was born in Israel. I haven't lived in many other, but that was the greatest country I've lived in my life. Israel is not behaving well towards its allies. And one of the reasons that you mentioned, Israel needs to start behave like a local power. Look at America. America is revering itself as an empire, as a very modern, powerhouse, and they defend their allies and they stand with their allies. Israel should stop playing the defense game. Israel should start playing, we are the owner of this land here. We are a powerhouse in this region, and we're going to make sure that everyone here behaved according to our standards. And that's good because Israeli standards are very good and moral standards. Now, Israel have a chance now to save a very strong group of allies in Syria, because I said that way, aside from the moral obligation, let's say, that they have toward their Druze brothers in Israel, which stood with them again and again and again, shoulder by shoulder. My grandfather fought in all of the Israeli wars. He was a decorator. He was the first Druze to light the Mesuah, the first non-Jew to light the Mesuah.
Just to explain to people, like a few years ago, the commander of one of the most Israeli of all Israeli brigades is the Golani Brigade. That's like the Israel,
the Marine Corps.
Right, but it's like the Golani is like the hardcore, like Israelis, and the commander of that was a Druze officer of the Golan. So that means that the Druze have achieved a level of respect and support here in Israel that's very high. Some of the I train almost once a month in shooting. Some of my best trainers are Druze.
Yeah, one of the Druze that died in Gaza about 5 years ago, and his name was not allowed to be revealed for so many years because he was one of the top, most secret units of Israel, was an undercover Druze person who worked with Shabak and Sayeret Matkal, who was very deep in Gaza, and his role was so important that even after his death, his family was not been able to receive, the condolence for his death because he was so top secret in the job that he was doing. We have Druze in the elite, special forces, in the commanding, in the government, everywhere. We embedded ourselves in the country. But what I'm saying is, every Israeli need to understand, and there's so many Israelis that are supporting actually the Druze. The people that came now to kill the Druze will come tomorrow to kill the Jews.
They came yesterday also.
They came yesterday, yeah. And actually, they're saying that out loud. So the Druze right now are the last line of defense and buffer zone from these radicals in Syria. And if they annihilate the Druze, you're going to have them on the border with Israel.
Right.
And you're going to have them waiting to
You're saying that there's a very sensical, technical, not even such a moral. It's a defensive rationale. You're saying
100%.
Help the Druze. They are your buffer zone. They want to stay there. Arm them, defend them. They are fighters. They'll stay there. They'll push back the bad guys from your borders.
Yeah, I would say even more. What is Syria? Syria doesn't belong to Al-Qaeda. Syria doesn't belong to ISIS. Syria, back in the day, someone divided the lands over here and gave some, they gave some Christians, actually, the area of Syria. The Muslims came, took it from them, killed them, kicked them out. There were some Jews there. They kicked the Jews out of there as well. And now they made it, this Taliban, Al-Qaeda land full of terrorists. Israel shouldn't care about these camel poop, just should go there, take the parts that they need to take to secure their defense. That's what I think as a Druze. Right. As well. Strengthen the belt with the allies, the Druze, train the Druze, help them. They protect us, we protect them. You're going to have, for the first time in the history of the Middle East.
Wait. I want to understand. Do you want to see those Druze in Syria become, let's say, residents of Israel? Do you think it should be, or no, it stays Syria, but it's under Israeli protectorate? You're saying arm them, train them, make them into a forward fighting force, which they're naturally, that's what they want to do anyway. Do you think it's important for Israel to assert political sovereignty there, or military sovereignty, or no? Just let the Druze have a autonomy there, their own space. Let's call it Druzestan.
Druzeland.
Yeah, Druzeland, right? What do you think about that?
So I think, I'm thinking out loud now, and I'm not a politician. I'm not a religious, figure in the Druze community, but, I have a brain and I have experience in my life. What I think is if Israel is to take the area in the Golan Heights that they already took, make it part of Israel, there is Druze villages there. These Druze villages, bring them, make them part of Israel. That's what I think. You're going to get very loyal, very strong, independent citizens who are going to help you in every possible way. The rest of the Druze, I don't think, because we're talking here, what makes Israel unique is its Jewish identity. And I am very pro for that. You know, when I was an officer in the army, when I would sing the Tikva, the Hymnon, you know, I would say Nefesh Yehudi Humiyah, I would sing it as it is because it's a Jewish country. So I don't know if Israel should bring now non-Jewish religions in big numbers into Israel. It's not.
That's why I believe in residency. Residency. I believe in residency. I believe that you are part of our thing, but that doesn't mean necessarily that you're going to shape the character of the country. Like, I very much believe in residency for loyal. They're part of our broader family, but there's a different status. And I for Americans, it's hard to hear, but for you, it's not so hard to hear. You know, better to be an Israeli resident than under the gun in Syria. Or do the Syrian Druze want an autonomy? Do they want their own, let's call it semi-state there of some kind?
So what I would think is the Druze are close to the border. If Israel takes that, bring them, make them residents of Israel. The Druze that are in Syria, help them create their own belt of Druze land. And I'm telling you, once that happens, you're going to have Christians running there. Every minority is going to run there to be defended by the Druze and the Jews. And then protect them. They'll protect you, you protect them. And you're going to start seeing Israelis going for tourisms and et cetera there. And they're coming here. It's going to be a very good solution.
By the way, one of the other issues with the Druze is that Druze are good builders, and they do a lot of the plumbing, electricity, building, air conditioning, all the stuff that Israel desperately needs, army stuff. So in many ways, they're also a natural workforce for Israel. And so that's actually, and also the Druze have a holy place in Israel, Jethro's tomb, right? Which I've visited myself, and that's very important to them. And Israelis, of course, would love to visit up there. The only problem is, Mansur Ashkar, the only problem is part of the Israeli psychology, which I'm working on trying to heal, which is what I said before, a certain ghettoization, a certain smallness of thinking, a certain non-Middle East-like attitudes, much more kind of European, small. I just want to survive. I don't want, you know what Israelis say all the time? They say, I don't want to control any other peoples. And I always say to them, all powers control other peoples. That's just the most natural thing in the world. And you know what? We're going to be blessing to those peoples, and they're going to be happy. But yeah, you're going to have to control other peoples. That's just the way it is. That's just the way. You can't stay in your little ghetto. If God has granted you these jets and this strength, then you have to use it. You have to use it for the good and to defend people. But this part of Israeli psychology, and we've seen it. We saw it very, very embarrassingly with the SLA, with the South Lebanese Army, which after they helped defend the North Israel and the South Lebanon, Israel kind of turned their back on them, and we know about that. We know about that. So that is something in the Israeli psyche that needs to be healed. When I took a tour up north and I met with many Druze, I always tell Druze, tell me what you really think. Just tell me what you really think. Like let's drop, just tell me what's going on. And they always tell me, you guys are too weak against the jihad. You're too weak against the jihad.
My God.
But you say it to us. Say it to the audience, Mansur. Say, me and you are just talking. We're two guys. I'm just saying, you're a Druze, I'm a Jew. What do you think about Israel? Like, what do you think? What do you think if you would analyze Israel? What's your take on it?
You're talking military wise?
I'm talking vis-a-vis the jihad. Vis-a-vis
Israel is way too weak and doesn't understand the language here. We say that a lot. Israel does not speak Arabic in the Middle East, and you cannot speak here Sushi or any other language. You need to speak hummus. It's a Middle East here. And in the Middle East, what counts is power and respect. And Israel have to play that game if they want stability in that area. October 7 came because they did not respect you or feared your power. That's it. That's why it came. October 7, also the later Israeli response that came way too weak, way too humanitarian, gave Hamas the chance to look like heroes. I mean, they're not heroes. They're a bunch of cowards, perverts. That's what they are. And they barely know how to fight. You know, they're just fighting like cowards behind women and children, just coming out, shooting RPG, running down. If they will face the IDF face to face, they will be annihilated in a day. So Israel's response with them have made them also look like heroes because Israel is not speaking the language. I've just, that might be controversial. People might not like hearing it, but I've just been hearing now, reading about a petition to give the penalty of death to the Nukhba terrorists who came to Israel, murdered, raped women, and killed children. And people started debating in a group that I was just added to. And I came in and said, guys, what kind of a question is that? You need to kill them by hanging. You need to bring these cranes, put them over Gaza, leave them there hanging in the air for weeks for all the people in Gaza to see that's what happened to anyone who comes to Israel to kill women and children.
That's right.
Make it as clear as possible, as brutal as possible, so they will see, they will be shocked. You need to humiliate the jihadist ideology. You need to crush it. And you need to not humiliate it in your own eyes. It needs to be humiliated in the eyes of their friends. They need to look like fools, like a joke. So when Mustafa comes out and tries to put a V in the air after he completely demolished, his town because they try to fight and hiding hostage in this town, all the Arab nation would look and say, are you stupid? Look what you've done. The Hamar, in the test, look what have you done. Never mess with the Jews. Why are you trying to kill them? They will wipe you out from the face of this earth because they will stand to defend themselves. Now, Israel does not present that language.